Troops, an urgent announcement. Now, I'm not sure if you might have seen it. I know a lot of you will have. A lot of you bought some. We had merch out, and we still have it out. And we'll put some pictures up on screen right now so you can see what we're talking about. We had the mushroom design, which is hand-drawn by Jamie Kelly.
Thank you.
A beautiful design. That is our favourite one, let's be honest. The other ones are the deep fried melting text, which is more like a basic sort of hoodie, comes in all sorts of colours, and then we've got the alien head as well. There's hundreds of stuff. There's tote bags, t-shirts.
The stuff with just like mugs with just the Reilly's gaff.
Aye, mugs, there's everything. But all of that is going to disappear by the 1st of March. We're going to do something new with the merch after that. So all of this stuff, if you've been watching Reilly's Gaff for a while and you thought, I'm going to get one of the hoodies, but I just don't know, now's the time. Because
it's the last opportunity.
Aye, genuinely, 1st of March, none of it's going to be there. So if you want to support us, you want to help us out, and support us through buying merch, and obviously that spreads the word for us. And they're quite cool designs, like we really like them. We actually just wear them just walking about as maybe egotistical as that is. So clubshopdirect.co.uk/Reilly's Gaff. We'll put the link in the description as well. Head over there, you can have a look at everything. Get any questions, you can DM us about it. But 1st of March, that's all going to be gone. So get it while you can. And also, troops, you know the podcast is brought to you by G4 Claims. Now, G4 Claims does what it says in the tin. Yeah, you need to make a claim, they're there to answer the phone. They deal with roadside accidents, Jamie, and you know, I bet everyone's thinking this, if I phone this G4 Claims, they're going to want bloody money off me, aren't they?
No, it's free. But the only thing is, I phoned them the other day with a claim to fame. I was on, this time I met, and I was trying to say, I met Obama and all that, and trying to get my claim.
Said you were pals with them?
No, I mean, and they were just hung up the phone to me. So don't phone for that. But anything to do with motors or
anything to do with accidents in the car, it wasn't your fault. Get in touch with them. It's notатfaultclaim.com, and their phone number is 01698 767 172. That's 01698 767 172. The number's on screen and it's in the description. If you're involved in that accident, get in touch with them. But for now, enjoy the podcast.
Day-to-day the shit changed, but you know for the most part nothing indifferent. Sometimes be stuck in my ways, weekend fucked up in somebody's kitchen, sticking my hand, I'm chilling with the troops and my few cans down, so I walk like Winston. Trust me, I wake up hanging, you think that I'm leaving this bed, you're kidding. I'm sitting on back in the pad, get deep fried and I smoke some packs of the grass. Put the feet up, kick back and relaxing your best, know I'm sitting on Reilly's Gaff.
Troops, welcome back to Reilly's Gaff. Another episode, and a great guest we've got in today, Kieran Burns from All About Ability. Welcome, Kieran.
Well, thank you, Evan. It's a pleasure to be here, boys.
We've spoke many times, Kieran, and the reason I wanted you on is because obviously the podcast and stuff, but see, just like getting to know you as a person, right? I was saying this to Jamie before you came. This sounds weird, right? But you're one of these people who, every time I talk to them, I feel better after I spoke to them than before it. It doesn't even matter if it's a wee quick conversation or a podcast or anything. You're just quite an uplifting person, I think.
Good energy.
I'm blushing now.
I know. Sorry to suck your dick so quick, so fast into it. But no, you're a good guy, and I think that you're a dead inspiring guy as well. So I think this will be a great episode for people who are struggling to like get by in life. Would you say you're quite inspirational?
I try. I mean, I think inspirational is like, it's funny because I just had a conversation recently about the fact that like this idea of inspiration porn, right? Have you ever heard of that saying before? No. Because obviously
I'm listening.
No, because like I use a wheelchair, right? So like, it's like my whole life, everything I've done has always been seen as this inspirational thing. Like, oh, he can wave his arse, man. That's so inspirational. Like,
I did want to talk to you about that a bit because I can understand. Like, Aye, well, we will get into that. Really, that'll be most of the podcast, White Marcy's. But I did want to talk to you a bit about, like, we'll get on to it, but I imagine some things that happen to you must be pretty patronising.
Oh, mate, you have no idea.
Aye.
Some of the stuff is just like, because I think people have this idea that my life is the most difficult life to live. Like, and yeah, the whole idea of this inspirational thing is like, it kind of, it's almost as if you see somebody in a wheelchair or see somebody with a disability, it's like, at least I'm not like them. Well, you're a mess, mate. Look
at the state
in life, bro.
No, it's like, I'm not here to make you feel better about your life. You need, you know what I mean? And I think as I've gotten older, I realised that people can't be genuine when they say you're inspirational by what you do. I'd rather be inspirational by actually what I do every day, rather than just being because I'm sitting in a chair.
Aye. And I mean, that is actually what I meant, because you do. It's more the way you post and sort of encourage people. If you're not feeling it the day, keep going, and that's what I found inspirational. But something I noticed about you when I went on All About Ability, Kieran's got his podcast All About Ability, go check that out. When I went on All About Ability and I was talking to you, you were just like making jokes about being in a wheelchair, and you were very like, because as somebody who hasn't to be honest been around a lot of people or had people in my life that have been disabled or in a wheelchair or whatever, sometimes you don't know how to, you're a bit scared, you don't want to say something, you don't want to assume something, but you kind of break that ice right away by just having humour about it. But I was wondering, like, have you always been like that since you were young, or did you, like, when you were young in school and that, did you struggle with it at first, or how was that?
That's a deep question there.
We're going right into it right away, baby.
Well, you know, I think, obviously I've been in the wheelchair my whole life, like, so I've got cerebral palsy, and it's like, I think at first it's one of those things where I think I use it as a negative thing, because you just kind of, you want to be seen for anything else other than being in a wheelchair, but you realise it's like, well, if I make jokes about this and people laugh, but for a long time, especially when I was in school and stuff like that, it was kind of, I was using it as sort of a negative thing, when I'm thinking to myself, right, if I make a joke about this and they're laughing, it felt more like I wasn't really laughing with them. I was doing it to sort of insult myself, you know, in a bad way. Because I think that you just, everyone around you sort of, like you say, tiptoes around you, and you're like that. I hate this. Like,
aye. If you just say it, then you've got it out the way. It's
exactly. Like, because obviously as I got older, I realised that, you know, being in a wheelchair is not a bad thing, and having a disability isn't a bad thing, but we need to be able to talk about it. I think, because if we don't talk about it, people with disabilities get seen as like aliens almost in society. It's like, you see somebody in a wheelchair going down the street, you're like, look at that guy, man. Outside living his life.
I don't do that. I would just say I don't do that, right?
But you park in disabled parking spots, don't you?
Why did you bring that up so early, man, honestly?
So early on.
So early is exposing me. Look, this is what I'll say about the disabled parking space, right? Like, you have these spaces, right? I shouldn't be in them, and I actually don't park in them. I'd say maybe I've done it once or twice or maybe like 5 times max. What I will park in is a parent and child space. Why are they even a thing?
They shouldn't exist, they think.
No.
Because I always park in them, and then if MD says, I always think in my head, if MD says it, and I'll go, I've got a win. Just no here.
Mate, I actually just lost my win. What are they going to say
so
then?
I park in this space just to...
Oh my god, imagine how bad they would feel. Recently lost my kid. So they'd be like, whoa man, whoa.
But, they spaces are, they're fair game, I think, to be fair.
It's always funny when they look at you like, we're the same, like, I can relate to you, like,
what if a parent and child gets it over? Like, I know you'll struggle, buddy.
I feel you, man. What? Fuck off.
Mate, so I suppose it's good that you kind of, in school and that, at an early age, you sort of realise, is it in school you sort of realise that, like, I need to own this sort of thing?
I was trying to figure out the right way to word it, but essentially I tried to become like the class clown, and the, you know, the guy that was like, listen to this guy make all these wheelchair jokes and that.
Like if you fart and go stinking, then nobody else says it and sort of thing.
But it's like, I always hear people, I mean, obviously this isn't like the best thing to do, you shouldn't slag people off all the time for things, right? But you know what it's like in Scotland, like, slagging people off for things is just part of the culture in some way, especially for when you're in high school and that. And you'd always hear people like be like, slag off somebody being ginger or having glasses or that. And I was like, kind of realised how, for some reason, being in a wheelchair was beyond that. Was beyond the sort of cultural part, if that makes sense.
And did that like, annoy you a wee bit? Because you're like,
I want to get slagged.
I want to join in.
No, it's like, I didn't want to get slagged, but it was just, to me, it was like a sign of I'm not normal. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Like, and when you don't feel like you're part of the group, or you're you know, you can just talk to people normally. You start going, I need to be the one bringing this up. But there was things that happened to me, like I play football. I used to play football on goals on my knees, just to go on a wee bit of sidetrack here, right? And I did that for like years.
Were you good?
I mean, I was class.
Well, yeah.
See,
I could pure mate. You actually look like a goalie, man.
You do look like a keeper.
Mate, there. That was the money shot right there.
Come on, number 6, fucking get it out.
No, I've got 4 brothers, right? And we all love football. And obviously I couldn't kick a ball. So, I mean, I'm still trying to do it, but it's not good in there. And so I was like, they put me... So the way I put it is, everybody crawls and walks. I just kept on crawling, man. You know?
I just never went.
I am like the cripple's Spider-Man. I've always wanted to say that. But no, so they kind of, there was a day where they were playing football and they just kind of put me in goals. And I just took to it, man. It was a lot of fun, and my knees are fucked right enough, but I enjoyed it, and it was good. And
on the red ash.
Some of the pictures I played in.
Oh, mate, I was actually talking about that to somebody the other day. Like, somebody was at my football was saying like, we used to play football up at like, somewhere in Wallacewell or something, and I was like, I played in the red ash at Springburn Park, bro. That's like that's where players are made, mate. That's all the best football players in the world played on Springburn Ash Park.
Where you find out who's a man and who
exactly, mate. Going home with fucking ash coming out your eyes and that.
Right. No, Hunter's Hill was the place for me, man.
Hunter's Hill?
That was, we would go and play for
Mecca
all day, mate. like just, you know, in the summer days where you would just play football for like 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, man. Those were the days.
I used to play football down at Hunter's Hill as well. Maybe we could have crossed paths at one point.
Who knows? We might have done that. I remember playing games where like all of a sudden you've got like you and your few pals come up, and then all of a sudden there's like 25 people there. Like,
where the days, man. We used to when I grew up, it was like we estates, so we used to we had like a team, and we would like go to the other estates and be like, right, who's fucking playing us then? Know what I mean? Like, and they would play us, and it would be an absolute bloodbath. It was the fierce rivalries from back in the day.
It was intense, man.
It was intense.
You had to be tough.
You had to be tough to make it.
And I hated, like, people would just see me and be like, what was so good about it, right, is everybody would like tap shots to me and I would save it, obviously, right, because I'm not like, you know, I know what I'm doing here. And I'm not, what's that keeper, Celtic had Barkas or something?
He was barking us.
I'm watching him going, put me on my knees and goals, I did a better job than this guy, man, it's terrible. But no, so they would tap shots at me, and as the game progresses, the shots would get harder and better, and I would still be saving it, and they'd be looking at me like, what's going on with this guy? So we did that for years, and then eventually I got into this team. That's like, it was supposed to be for people with physical disabilities, right? And I was the only one in the wheelchair, but like I just never thought about it. I played for them for like 4 or 5 years, and then one time there was like this event where they didn't have wheelchair access, and they didn't sell me. And so I brought my whole family there and all that, and my mum was just raging about it. And basically this guy, the guy that ran it, I'm not going to name names because I can't be arsed.
Call him out.
He was just the biggest prick you could ever meet in your life. And it was like, so that night we came, and they were all, so they hadn't told me there was a wheelchair access. My mum goes down the stairs and she has a pure go at this guy, but it turned out, I found out later on that when she did that, he was like right next to his ex-wife, and she was pure howling.
Really? Aye.
And then so like a week later, basically, they're trying to apologise, but he hadn't spoke to me, and I turned up to training because at that time of my life, the only thing that I enjoyed was playing football, man. It was the only thing that really was getting me taken over, because the school system just had me kind of alienated. Like, you'd always have I'd have like a care assistant person follow me about, like everywhere, like all the time. You couldn't do anything. That was like, especially for the first couple of years until I was like, here, I've got no pals because of this. This is not.
Because that's
You're
my
following me about with a clipboard.
old woman's at my tail already, man.
This is not ideal. Like I would be in art and she would be doing drawing. She would draw for me, and then at the end of the class,
Like, I can fucking use my own.
at the end of the class, they'd be like, "Oh, Kieran, that was a really good drawing." I'm like, "I didn't do anything to this."
That is so patronising
That
and
is,
so like it baffles me, especially with working in a school for a while. It showed me, like, when you're young, and you know, obviously I didn't go through the experiences you went through, but when you're young, you're like, schools have just figured it out. Know what I mean? Schools are schools, but then, especially hearing this stuff and the experiences I had in that school, working in it, you realise, like, they don't have their shit together. And as well, I thought that was pure interesting what you're saying about, you know, like, people might get slagged for being ginger or fat or that, but like, when it comes to people in like wheelchairs and that, people don't even want to go there, but it works the same way, where it's like, they might think they're helping you by doing that, but they're actually excluding you for the laugh that everybody's having. So I can see how that's pure alienating.
Exactly, because we know how it's not like, we know how when people do that, it's not always with like vicious intent. It's just part of how we talk to people at times, and you just become more aware of that. Like, what I'm saying is, there was different scenarios where in that point in my life I'm just thinking, well, I'm starting to feel like I can't do anything, I'm not capable of doing things, but I would go to this football group, and be playing fives and just loving it, and you know, I was pretty good back in the day in my prime.
So talk me through this. So obviously you were playing and you were in goals on your knees. So how did you then progress for that on to Powerchair? When did that start?
Well, it kind of lines up. It's see, when I think about this, right, it's kind of a fairy tale story in a way, because it's like, basically what happened with that whole event thing is, I went back to the training the next week because I was like, here, I need to just tell them it doesn't matter, like, let's just forget about it. And I swear to God, mate, this was like a scene out of a movie with a Scarface or something. Because
Scarface for a year or something.
Say hello to my name.
Mate, I felt like you ever just have a moment in your life you look back on and be like, that was a pure evil thing for that guy to do.
Aye, mad, pure standout moment.
It was the start of a bad cycle for me, but I was reversing the car as I do, and as I'm coming out, right, try to get some jokes in amongst a really deep, dark story here. Right? But as I'm reversing the car, this guy, so two of the coaches who aren't the main coach, they start running towards the door. Like, they see me and they start running towards the door, right? And I'm like, that's strange, because I'm early. I'm trying to be unlike, you know, certain times. So I'm going towards the door, right? And the two of them just stand there like robots, and are like, we have decided as a club that you're no longer ambulant enough to play for us.
What?
Fuck.
Like, completely robotic as well. And then,
What, as if it was just written down or something? As if they're pure reading a script?
but then after that they say, but you can come in and say goodbye and do this session if you want, but you can't come back.
Fuck off.
Fuck that.
Mate, and there's so many things illogical about that. Like, I can play tonight, but you're saying I can't. I'm not.
Aye, so how can I play the night if I can't? What's the difference? The night and the morning?
Aye,
it's obviously just been like, oh, he's causing me hassle. Do you know what I mean?
Mate,
what year would you say this was?
I can't remember the year, but I remember I was 15.
Right, so what age are you now?
I'm 26.
Aye, same mate, same. Legends. No, so that's over 10 years ago, roughly 10ish year ago. So do you think the attitude's changed since then? Do you think society's moving forward a bit with this stuff, or do you think, because that like, maybe it would happen and I'm just being ignorant, but I feel like nobody would even think to say that these days?
Well, you know, I think it really depends on whether, you know, the person and whether they actually, you know, it's all about the people, like, because you can get away with something if you try hard enough, you know what I mean? He was a policeman, so he knew that it would be hard to take any sort of
we need
action in some sort of
grass this guy in, mate.
I know, mate.
And,
I know a guy, I don't know if you've heard him, that can get polish done. His name's Lee Sutherland. What he does, he takes policemen to court and gets them to jail. He's actually the only man in Scotland that can do it. So if you want anything done,
we are the Connect.
We are the Connect.
No way, mate. I need to keep that in mind.
Aye, so after the podcast we can sort it, yeah.
No, but in terms of if things have changed, the main thing I would say about that is, like, so there's a lot of talk about, like I said, how inspirational we are and stuff, but I feel as though sometimes that kind of conversation about that, it's to kind of overshadow the real actual issues that need to be fixed. For example, like, you know how you hear a quote that's like, the only disability in life is like a bad attitude, right? I used to pure believe in stuff like that. Like I used to pure be like, aye, let's fucking do it, man. Right? But see, the older you get and the more you look at the actual issues, you go, well, no amount of smiling a set of stairs is going to turn it into a ramp.
You can't smile stairs into ramps.
But have you tried, Kieran?
I just think you've not tried hard enough.
See if you're really, really positive, we'll just turn into a ramp.
Aye, so it's no necessarily. It's down to the individual, basically. You're saying.
Aye, well, it's just like I think it's like we're too busy talking about how us doing anything in life is this amazing thing.
Aye.
Rather than saying not enough things are actually accessible or made to be.
Mate, you're bang on. You're bang on, because do you know what? You'll always see videos on Facebook. Like, obviously you work out a lot, but say like you see a guy who's maybe no got any legs or something, and he's like working out in the gym and he's lifting it, and like everybody's like, this is amazing, like, but and it's like rather than going, how did he get into that gym? Like, is there access to get into that gym? How did, like, they're the real issues, things that would really make your life better, rather than just a pat in the back for doing something.
Aye, exactly, mate. Like, I think we're better at talking about it. We're better at, there's more discussion about it. But that's kind of all it is. It's like, look, we're full of inclusion. We want to be, all about equality and all that. And then it's like, well, what are you actually doing about it, though?
It's tokenistic.
I'm still kind of getting firewater, mate. Do you know what I mean? What's happening with that?
You've got a bean your bone about that.
We'll all go down and get a good smile at the stairs, right? See what happens.
So it's like, just try to talk about it to get to the point where we're actually, doing something about it. Because, like I said, it's from 10 years to now, right? There's more sympathy, I guess. There's more want to include people, which is a good thing. I can't ignore the fact that has improved in terms of the conversation. But then how do we actually put that into actionable improvements?
Aye. Because it's all right. It's like politicians and, we've got this campaign and we're giving away this and we're putting this here, but then you maybe actually look into what's happening and it's all just for a tweet, to get on the news and talk about it, or it's things aren't actually really happening.
Exactly. Like, people will talk about the Paralympics. Like, the Paralympics is like one of the biggest drawn sporting events in the world. But where are they the rest of the year? Why are we only covering that one event? Like, they're training every day, all year, for different events.
Because I was watching like, actually, before we go into that, you were going to tell us about how you go onto the chair football, how you go on the Powerchair. So when that happened to me, when that guy said that to me, I just sat there and I completely froze. Like, I couldn't say anything. I was 15 and it was just like the most crushing thing anybody could ever say to me. Like, I was just completely, I think because it hadn't really occurred to me that I was that different. Yeah, things were hard, like things in school were hard and that, but I didn't really know why. But it's just your life, so it's
I didn't really understand or have an idea of how the world seen me, and then I just realised that even in a group where I thought I was part of the group, I was still kind of different.
It's just been taken away.
Mate, so it was really devastating. It kind of started me going down a bit of a rabbit hole in terms of drinking early and different things like that for a long time. Because I think you just develop this hate for yourself, this deep hate for yourself, because you're like, if I could just, I'm like 95, according to the world, I'm like 90% normal. If I could just walk, man, why can't I just, it's like, that's going through your head constantly as a young man. It's like, you don't know what to do about it. But the Powerchair football thing was really interesting, because the first session, I think, was a wee bit before that, and I'd never really met anybody else in a wheelchair before. And I came in, and I remember, like, it made me feel quite uncomfortable first. I was
really,
I was a bit like, just because I became so aware because of that incident, I had people seen us. So it's like, all I thought about it was people would just look at us and think, oh, look at this group of people in wheelchairs, how cute is that?
That patronising sort of tone.
And I just think, I hated myself for it so much, and then just seeing everyone else in a group, it was kind of overwhelming. But so it was kind of a struggle with that. And then the guy that coached it was dead nice to me. He was dead supportive. He knew what happened to me, and he was the opposite of that. You know what I mean? He was encouraging me to come back and all that. And because I remember, like, he gave me a bit of encouragement. We did the first ever Powerchair football session. I scored the first goal, and he came up to me and he was like, I think you'd make a good captain or whatever.
I had you on for goal scorer.
and I was just like that in my head. I was like, that somebody that actually thinks I'm worth something, man, it's amazing. So the week after that happened with that guy in the football, it was the first ever Scottish Cup for Powerchair Football, and I wasn't even going to go, mate. I was just pure like, I'm done with football, I'm done with sport, I don't want to even talk about it.
How far after this is like that incident?
So that, like, yeah, so the incident happened literally, like, mate, I think it was like a week or two before the first Scottish Cup, mate.
No, sorry, but see for the incident with the guy saying you're out the team till this session, how long is that?
Well, the session, I think that session had happened before it happened with that guy.
Oh, okay.
But like, I kind of, but it was just not something I was taking seriously. I didn't think about it as an option.
You're just seeing what it was like, sort of thing.
I was just like, I want to play football out of my chair. I want to do that. And so he was there, and you know, looking back at it now, you realise like subconsciously it was a big deal in terms of just his positive words and that. And then the week after that, I had the Scottish Cup, and I wasn't going to go, but I finally knew how upset I was about it all, and I was like, I'm just going to go just to try and help them feel better about this, because they can see that I'm pure not doing well. So I ended up going to this, and we played all the games in the same day. And we ended up, so we got to the final, my team got to the final, and I'd only scored like one goal the whole day, and there was like 2 or 3 other guys in the team that were really good, and they had got us there. But by the time that we got to the final, I remember like one of the guys who scored most of the goals that day, his chair was getting low on battery, and then the other guy's footplate fell off or something, so like the team was kind of falling apart. And like, I was thinking to myself, if we're going to win this, I need to do something.
Cometh the man, cometh the moment.
This is a movie, mate. You're right.
And do you know what's funny about it is, like, everything I'm saying here is actually happened in real life. It's like, so, you know, I think, long story short, I scored a hat-trick in that final.
Class.
And my dad was up in the stands watching it, and my dad's not an emotional guy, and he's never, you know, I mean, he's the same as me. I'm a very emotional guy, right? But I just think my dad's got a bit of a hardened shell, you know. You know,
they all do.
You know what they're
That's
like.
dads for you.
But I'm looking up, mate, and I can see him getting a bit teary-eyed and all that, and it was just a whole mad experience. But I remember, like, when I was scoring those goals and that had happened that way, I was just hooked. I was so like, this is amazing.
Gone for like the low that you had felt like a week before to like score a hat-trick in the cup final must have been madness.
It was, you could have given me every drug in the world.
That must have been so overwhelming emotionally to go, as James said, for that low, and then all the feelings are like no being included, no fitting in somewhere, and then gone to that and feeling like a part of something. Your dad's there greeting basically, like you're like, fuck, I just scored a hat trick. That must have been such a pure roller coaster of emotions for you. So do you think that's what got you back on the right track, maybe?
100%.
Really, aye?
The timing of that was so, sometimes you look back at things and you go, for that to be happen so close to that was so important, because I don't know what, I mean, obviously I still had a lot of things to deal with after that, and it was a long process, but I think like, it just gave me something to hang on to, and it made me realise like I can play football, and this is fun, and it just gave me something to be part of. And I think, like I said, the timing of it couldn't have worked out in a better way. And to look back at it now and you go, that was the first one, and I've been playing it for like 10, 12 years or something.
Mate, because see, football, I know, I always think it's mad when I think about like football as a pure social thing, I know. Like, I don't think I would have a social life if I didn't have play
like
football.
The camaraderie, like, and I was listening to a guy who was in the army. He was on Joe Rogan, Mike Glover. He was in the army, and he says that like a lot of guys when they're in the army, Navy SEALs, whatever, they come out and see that feeling of like, so like, see when you come out, right, see civilian life, it's like, I'm going to, every day is set for like, how can I benefit for the day? How can I get more money? How can I have a smoother day? How can I, you know what I mean? It's all to do with you immediately. Whereas, see that feeling of like putting you to the side and I'm doing this for a bigger cause, like a team, it's so good for your like mental health and your mind, because
your ego and shit.
And it's that camaraderie, and like it's like a family feel. And a lot of guys when they come out of the military can't deal with that. Like they just can't deal with no having a bigger purpose than just like oh, I need to just get up and just go about my day and just.
I know what you mean.
It's lost a bit of purpose, but that's amazing, mate. And obviously you've been playing it for a while now, and we see you on Twitter all the time. We see, I mean, you scored a back heel the other night, Kieran, and I've seen it, baby. Talk to me about like how that game's progressed, because you're pushing to get something properly set up for it, aren't you? Like how is that going?
Yeah, so I mean, that's going to get a long answer here, probably. Right?
It's alright, mate. That's all I'm here for.
It's like in the game, it's like a 4-3 game, and when we started playing it, it was all kind of NHS chairs and slow chairs, and it was very much like RoboCops. You know what I mean?
People getting like nitros and that now, is it kind of?
They get the knocks in.
But you couldn't really pass the ball. It was more like you'd have like every team would have like that one player that could carry the ball and be a guy, and then hopefully, and then you have certain rules where everybody needs to be spread out, right? But the kind of progression of it has been more chairs specifically designed for the game that are faster, and it's more like a proper 5-a-side game.
A competitive kind of.
Like, if you watched it, you'd be like, "This is football." I can tell that how this is done.
Aye,
you know,
like
what I mean?
tactics and shit, because you can pass it and that.
Exactly. So my thing has been, my whole push has been, try to get the mainstream clubs involved. Celtic, Rangers, Aberdeen. All the teams, mate. All the teams, because.
And Rangers said 100% were no doing that, didn't they? I'm sure they said.
Aye, mate. See that? Because I remember talking to Charles Good a while back.
Did you?
I've got something
I kind of believe that. Is that you be the guy?
But you're the kind of guy that if you told me that you'd spoke to Charles Green, I'd be
like, mate, what happened to it? As if Charles Green would be even the guy that would have dealt with that. You know what I mean?
I don't know why that name was the first name that came to my head.
Charles Green, I know. It's
like even Craig White.
Exactly. He's a your main guy. People forget Charles Green, mate. He got shift to the side, but. How are like clubs reacting to you trying to push for this, or has it been positive? What's the deal?
I want to just before I answer that question, right? See as we just said that. See when I used to go to parties and that, right? There was a wee people. So this is terrible, right? This is not a good thing, like. But people used to sing David Murray, kind of ski, right? And it was terrible. Like, it's like you shouldn't do that. But I'd be at these parties, right? And then somebody clocked that I was there, and they just started saying about me. They were like, Kieran Burns,
that's shocking, man.
But mate, I loved it, man. I was like, yes.
I thought you were going to say like you were singing like he can't walk and all that.
And then I realised, like, so as they're doing that, I mean, at the time, I'm looking back and I'm like, that's pretty fucked up. But I was just enjoying being in the spotlight for a second.
Just like I'm part of this. It is weird how that works, isn't it? But I'm sorry. What's been the like feedback for these clubs? Are they for it? Is it a kind of ongoing thing? Or?
Well, it's interesting because like my whole reason for this, right, is that I came into the sport a pretty damaged, young person who didn't really know anything about himself, and then you start to kind of grow up, and it was the whole reason why I got into the gym and all that as well. Mm-hmm. And like, I want to make sure that this is here for, after I'm gone, man. You want to make sure that this is nailed in. And you see the progression of women's football and how, at one point the idea of a women's league itself would have been, ludicrous for people, like, which is crazy.
How are they going to start a league in the kitchen?
But that's the kind of thing people would say.
Exactly, so it's that mad prejudice, and then society changes, the culture changes, and then things just become the norm, and that's what obviously you're trying to do, innit?
So, exactly.
What are you like? So are you involved with the league? Are you involved with the? Do you know what I mean? Where are you with the Powerchair?
So there's a committee. It's called the Scottish Powerchair Football Association, right? And they were sort of made as a branch off as part of the Para Football Association,
right?
And I'm kind of I'm the player ambassador, I feel like. Right?
See, that's what I wanted. I wanted the buzzword there, player ambassador.
Because I could have been like the chairman or whatever. I've tried to do things like that, but I wanted to. For me, it's about helping the players, and then other people can do the admin side of things. But I realised kind of later on that the only way that this was going to happen is if players were out there sort of forcing the issue and saying this needs to happen now. Mm-hmm. Like, because the whole thing to me is like, if you have like a men's team, a women's team, and a Powerchair football team. You've got a wheelchair, like somebody in a wheelchair lining up with Callum McGregor. You know what I mean? And it's like that. It's more than just football, that to me.
Aye.
Because it's like a society thing where all of a sudden we're part of this conversation. And the first thing might be strange, but think about it, if you had that in like 10, 20 years down the line, I could just imagine people, you know, a young guy in a wheelchair, you know, and he's like talking about, like, did you see that Celtic Rangers game last night?
Aye,
you know what I mean?
That'd be class.
Like, and it's like that's what
It
the aim
doesn't
is.
seem. It doesn't seem. It's not like that should happen. That should be
Exactly.
the case. Know what I mean?
And the thing that pisses me off about this, to go on a rant with this, is that I shouldn't really. As soon as it's brought up to clubs, it should just be a thing where like we should do this,
Aye.
right? But the first question I get is, well, who else is doing it? What's happening here? What's going on here?
Oh, right.
and,
Aye.
and like I've been in in-depth discussions with Celtic for a year or so, probably more than that at this point. And there are people that are picking up and they are interested, but the foundations themselves, this is the thing, they kind of want to do it as part of the foundations, which is great, but there's certain foundations, like the Celtic Foundation, doesn't do anything competitive, right?
Aye.
Right.
See that as well, like part of the foundation, part of it just seems a bit, as you say, like
Pawn off.
I just know, but that whole inspiration. Oh, look, and it's the foundation and the Ty Tims, and it seems like that they're trying to put like, oh, look at this wee thing, and it's no a seat. They're not taking it seriously, and like, you's playing it. You's want to like. You want to be playing Rangers, but I fucking enjoy it. You know what I mean? Real pure. Oh, let's all get a picture, and like it is the sort of fucking pigeonhole they put you in. But what's interesting as well, there you're talking about like you want wee guys to like look up and say like 20 years, even like certain players and that, like, oh, I want to be like them, and like. See, growing up, like what was it like for you in terms of like role models? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it? Because as you say, like people only put into the spotlight in wheelchairs and stuff. They're as you say, like they try and just kind of keep them in the background, and it is this inspirational thing. So was that like a weird thing for you growing up?
It was, mate. There wasn't any role models, man. Like I think because people forget as well. Like when you're a kid, everything you're thinking about doing is based off of seeing somebody else doing it. Like it's like I seen that, like I seen that on the telly. Like I want to be, you know, a fireman.
Aye, like say like you're a wee guy that's a Celtic fan. Oh, Larson like sticks his tongue out when he celebrates. So like you might score a goal, then copy that because it's like so your hero sort of thing. Because even like I worked in a school and they had a board and it was like fair dues are trying, but it was like. People who have achieved things and they've got a disability, and it was like a big wall, but it was like fucking this guy won like a Commonwealth medal and he had like a lazy eye, and you're like, that's not a fucking disability, mate.
He was colourblind.
Aye, yeah, you're like, come on, man, that's not a. So at least they're trying, but aye, as you say, it's a.
Well, speaking about role models, you told me that your role model, and apparently you use this as a pickup line. Stephen Hawking. you told me you tell lassies you're Stephen Hawking's wee brother or something.
And where did you do it? Is it not in the Savoy?
It was in
talk to us about the Savoy.
in the Savoy.
Aye, because I wanted to talk to you about that, because you're saying like Firewater, right? Firewater, if you're listening, anybody to do them, sort the shit out, right? Burnsy boy needs to get to work in there, baby. But he does do a bit of work in the Savoy, and he tells about this, Kieran.
Oh man, what
Troops, as you know, the podcast is sponsored by Molly's Meal Prep, the best meal prep going about Glasgow. And if you are on the train that's now approaching Fatville, which a lot of people are, I've been seeing a lot of the fatties walking about, and myself included, I've put on a few pounds over the holidays. And what I will say is, you need to sort your diet out. That's the first thing. Alright, you're going to your classes, you're going to your Zumba, legs, bums, tums, you're doing whatever. That's great. You need a good diet. So the place to go, where is it, Jamie? Tell them.
It's Molly's Meal Prep.
It's Molly's Meal Bloody Prep. Now, she's got a new menu for February. This girl does not stop, doesn't she not? She's just on it constantly, yeah. Every month there's a new menu, because you don't want to be eating the same stuff for months.
Well, some of Molly's stuff I would, mate. I would have her gyro, her chicken gyro every day of the week, bro.
Brother, how about last month's jambalaya?
Oh, mate.
Jambalaya.
I do want to talk about that, mate.
It's an exotic dish.
That jambalaya is unreal, man.
Aye, if you know, I did get held at gunpoint at the weekend there, and somebody said, what would your meal be on death row if you did get caught for all the horrible things you've done, Evan? And I said, fire me up that fucking chicken and chorizo jambalaya.
Get on the phone to Molly and get that meal prep.
Phone Molly. So, troops, let's go through some of the menu for this month. We have the naked bird. The naked bird. There's no naked birds actually coming with this. It's a naked burger. Potatoes and veg. Chicken pesto pasta. Chicken satay with rice and veg. Beef teriyaki with rice. Sweet chili prawns, garlic potatoes and veg. A wee veggie burger, potatoes and veg for all you veggies out there, yeah? Pesto pasta, also vegetarian option. She's got the breakfast menu, the overnight oats, Biscoff, Nutella overnight oats, the healthy fry up. And she's also got all those meals in high protein form, so just a bigger portion if you're trying to
get that fucking protein in you.
Get all that protein in you, yeah. So, to order with Molly, all you need to do is go on our Instagram at Molly's Meal Prep and DM her, and just, it's a minimum of 5 meals. That's your standard order. And if you mention that you've seen Molly on Reilly's Gaff, she's going to throw in 2 free breakfast items with your first order.
7 meals for every day of the week.
That's it, baby. If you're having your breakfast for one of the meals. So, yes, go get it. Get those deals. And remember, tell Reilly's Gaff sent you. Cheers.
I love a good can of beer.
Glug, glug, glug.
Yeah, but I'm getting kind of bored of just like my kind of normal, just plain beers, lagers, pilsners.
Yeah.
I don't know what I can do about that. I don't know where I can go. Or...
I know what you can do, son boyo. You can get on to Beer 52. Now, Beer 52 are craft beer experts.
Yep, they are.
Beer 52 are a monthly beer subscription service, and we've partnered with Beer 52 to give you a very special offer. Beer 52 are going to give you a case of 8 free craft beers.
8 free craft beers?
8?
That must be that's a lie. That's a straight up lie, bro.
I would never lie to you, Jamie.
Promise.
So 8 free beers they're going to give you when you sign up with our code. So go www.beer52.com/Reilly, Reilly, and you're going to get a free case of 8 beers. Now, these beers, as well, I was talking to Jamie about there, these aren't the beers that have been mass produced, sent all over the world, you know, uncared for, all about the money. These are people who care about the beer.
Small batch breweries.
They care about the quality of every single can. So, not only that, you're going to get beer snacks with it. You're going to get a magazine about beer as well. Bloody hell, you're going to be beer daft by the end of it, yeah? So, get on it, troops. 8 free beers. Could be a nice wee present for somebody. Also, if you want to cancel any time your subscription, you can do it. You can pause it as well. They've got beer for everybody. So, there's no reason not to get involved, troops. Go, hit the link, and get those free beers.
What have I done? Okay, so there's a lot of areas we're going to never to touch on the Savoy thing, right? The thing is with the Savoy, right, is I know, listen, people are going to be listening to this and going, fucking Savoy, what is he talking about, man? That's, like, I know it's manky, the floors are manky, it's knees cleaned out, it's all over the shop, right? But the point is...
You're not a good spokesperson. You work for Savoy, do you?
They've not even got, but they've not got, the thing is, there's beautiful about it, is there's no stairs, mate.
Not one stair in the place.
Everyone needs to get in, so if the lift breaks, nobody can get in there, not just me, mate. It's brilliant. I love that. I love that stuff, right? So we would go in, and obviously the drinks in Savoy are pretty cheap, you know. It's pretty,
yeah.
You can get
a drink for 40p in that.
And the thing is, boys, is that, right, you know, steering a power wheelchair is hard, but steering a power chair steering, well,
or a sticky Savoy floor.
it can be tough. I have wheeled over many toes in my day.
You drifting into birds' tables and that? That's happening.
Oh, I didn't mean that. So how's things? You want to be backy?
You're backy.
Yeah. Said whenever we can have a really good time. You know?
Oh, you've got them all
I've got
nailed
the
down.
puns and everything.
I'd have been a great stand-up comedian if I could do the stand-up. But, so you'd be surprised at those kind of, you know. I think the thing is as well is nobody's heard things like that. So when you come up to birds and that and you say things like that, so I would come up and I would do this when I was pure Stephen, right? So it wasn't like a coherent thought. And people that believed this were just, I thought, well, the fact you even believe this is mental. But I would say to them like. So I would just go to people and be like, do you know what, I'm Stephen Hawking's brother?
The age difference is wild enough.
Not even for the same country or not, you know what I mean?
He got the brains, but I got the looks.
That's it, mate.
You know what I mean? And so that's a bit of an outrageous thing to say, to be fair, right? But like you would get situations, and I would also do this thing where people come up to me and be like, what happened to you? You know what I mean? How come you're in a wheelchair? And I would be like, I would just tell different stories. Like, I got hit by a bus last week, man, and it's been really tough. And do you know how many times as well, like, that's happened, right? And I've tried to tell the lassie it was a joke, and then something happens and they end up going away. And I'm thinking, there's buds out there that think I'm like, they think I'm paralysed or something.
Mate,
I
I was just imagining like you telling something, I got hit by a bus last week, and you're like, no, I'm kidding on, that's a joke, and I've got hit by a bus, and all that. He's lying about being in a wheelchair. He shouldn't be in this wheelchair.
He's trying to skip the queue.
Oh, see, sometimes as well, you get savvy with it when people come up to you and they're like to you, oh, it's so like cool to see you out and about, mate. And like
That, I know.
And do you know what's funny about it? It's always when you're talking to a lassie in a club or something. It's some guy you've never seen in your life, never spoke to him. He'll come up, interrupt the conversation, and be like, "All right, mate, it's good to see you. You know, it's so nice to see you out and about and that." And then try to talk to the bird.
As if I'm a great guy. I'm acknowledging this.
That's shocking.
I mean, and I could not even tell you how many times that's happened. It's happened so many times. Right?
Fuck them.
But the birds, like, they'll know, and because it's always the guy that's like, I mean, and I don't judge people, right? But it always seems to be the ugliest, like. Just if you're a stinking guy that does that, it's never like
Mate, he's like sniffing out opportunities. He's sitting like, I'll need
You know,
a
he's like sitting like, I need an in somewhere. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Wales are in. There's Kieran Burns. I'm going
Mate, and I would say to people, I'd be like, here, because sometimes you're like your blood boils a wee bit, and you're like, fucking joke here, mate. I've been trying to make a conversation with this man.
Do you know how many wheelchair jokes has been said?
I put a whole time in.
I'm running it, mate.
It's like it's you know, and that's the kind of thing people don't think of that kind of stuff. Like you just realise that is, you know, especially when you're talking to a lassie or something in the club, people's first thought usually is, what's his deal? So you kind of need to address that right away. Like, my first thing, what I'll say, like, is there's another thing where I'll be like, I'll come up to them and I'll be like, how you doing? Hope you have a good night. Everything works, by the way. And then they'll laugh, and then if it's going well, they'll be like, how well does it work? And I'm like, well, you want to come find out? So you know,
drop my bit of Riz on them.
W Riz.
Exactly. So the Stephen Houghton thing was probably the most outrageous thing that I've ever done. But there's definitely been. I mean, I ended up in a Gaff. We went to Savoy, and have this pal that usually takes things a bit too far with me. You know, he's also in a wheelchair, and Connor McCall, if you're listening to this, he's a great partner and he's a great guy. We'd be out in clubs and that, and one night he convinced me to go out like 3 days before a game or something, and I was like, I don't know, mate, because I'm pure strict with myself with stuff like that. And he managed to convince me, and we ended up wearing the box, and then we go to Savoy. And when in Savoy, and I'm just pure. It's went out of hand. I'm like on like 7 Venoms or something like that, and I'm just losing it a wee bit, and I'm steering at the poles and shit. It's just not going to plan, man. And we come out, and I'm, you know that way when you're steering, you're just like, the night's not over yet.
I know. I've felt that for about 10 years of my life. Yeah.
Straight. He always says to me after, what you doing after this, mate? Well, I just want to keep things going.
Exactly. That's literally the reason why I don't drink anymore, man. Because
You're off it?
I'm off it, mate.
Mate, you're quite do you know, like, I want to move on to this because the All About Ability podcast now, you've obviously been through a lot with that, right? And then, so, what do you think the purpose you starting All About Ability was? Do you think it was, because a lot of it is maybe for you to be like, I want to, you know, highlight sort of, and be an inspiration for maybe younger people that are in wheelchairs and stuff, and kind of highlight the issue and that, but do you think it was a bit for you as well?
Well, very well put, Evan. I'm taking notes.
It's what I do, mate.
Notes out of the questions. Well, see, you know, I think the best way for me to answer this is when you were talking about like the football thing, right? See, like, one of the things that really occurred to me was you would go to watch whoever your team is, right? And you'd be like, I wish, you know, it'd be amazing to, because not everybody's going to play for their team they support, but you cannot think as a wee guy or a wee girl it's possible. Do you know what I mean? It's like a possible thing that you could think of, that there's no reason why I couldn't do this. I've really applied myself. But then you go in a wheelchair, you're like, this is never going to happen for me. Like, it's unequivocally impossible.
Aye.
And so, you know, then you find yourself, as I remember saying to myself, like, if there was ever a time that I could, if there was somehow, some way that this was made possible, I need to be the guy that makes this happen. All of a sudden you find yourself in a meeting at Celtic Parks with some of the big dogs, and you're like that.
Your Lawwells, your Mackay.
Mate, I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get myself in the
Legal
way.
issues.
Right? But you're sitting there and you're going, it just dawned on me that I was like, I'm the guy. Like, I'm that guy that I was talking about when I was away. Like, and all of a sudden you start feeling all this pressure where you're like, I need to make this happen, man. This needs to, like, because it's like a moment of time when you start going, right, I need to be the one that pushes this through. Because they all say to you, in that meeting, I know this is a bit of a sidetrack for the actual question there, right? But I just remember we were talking about it earlier and I wanted to say this because it's the most important part of the whole pushing for teams and that, in this meeting. And, you know, they're giving you all this, like, who else is in it and, you know, how far along are you with it and stuff like that. And we've got a national team and all that, but the guy said to me, like, what are you going to do if this doesn't happen? Like, if we can't do this? And the room went just fell quiet and I just had this pure moment of courage where I was like, you don't understand, mate. This is, like, I need to make this happen. Like, whether you want it to happen or not, it doesn't bother me. Like, like, I'm not going anywhere, and it's really important to me that this happens because there's always that moment in life where you're like, there's certain moments in time where you go, that person did this and that person did this, and for me, I realised this is my thing that I'm supposed to be doing. So to go back to the podcast thing, like, a few years ago, you know, at first it was kind of, I want people to understand more about disabilities and more about what I've been through and things like that. But for me, it was kind of a situation where I went, well, this is a thing where you realise that everybody goes through horrible times in life and they feel down, and I've been suicidal, I've been depressed, I've been like, I can't leave my bed for days or whatever. I've been in all those things, and they all feel shite, and you just feel like nobody else has been through that, or you can't relate to anybody, and I think I realised, I had this moment where I realised that, like, you know, it's the way to sort of help people destigmatise disability in itself is to connect to the fact that we all have our own struggle. Whether you know, you can walk and I can't, but you also have bad days in your life where things will happen to you where you'll feel shite, and we probably have felt the same sort of thing in our lives at some point, because we all have this idea that everything's different, and I used to feel so different than everybody else. But I think the older you get, you kind of realise that everybody's kind of the same.
Aye, but all having the same thoughts. I don't like my body, don't like this, I don't like this, blah blah blah. Like,
and you think you're the only one, and
you
like,
think everybody else is so happy with everything.
It's because of like social media and all that. You'll see people posting shit. I think podcasts has kind of changed that. Like, we always talk about, like, in Scotland, I feel like there's a lot now that's like just mad positive people, like podcasts and different like kind of content creators and that. Obviously there's a lot of mad motivational shit going on, and I feel like it's moving away a bit for even maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Everything on like Instagram, Twitter and everything was all about like how class my life is, know what I mean? I don't feel like that's such a thing anymore.
I feel like when people are still using, I don't know, man, it's like social media is somebody's highlights. Do you know what I mean? It's like on holiday, out for this meal, my birthday, it's all highlights in it. But I do feel like people are getting away from that sort of using it to just brag, like post something, and I don't know, man, there still is a lot of people using it for that, a lot of like materialistic people, but
it's just it's in your face.
I think people are realising the damage that does as well, so it feels a bit dated to still be doing that sort of thing.
And in that, along with like podcasts like All About Ability and that, I feel like there's a a culture of like people like, everything is shite, but like,
we're all in it together.
I mean, no, it's like,
and you've helped with that, obviously, as you're saying.
Thank you, Dr. Funzo here. No, but it's like that, like we all feel things in a different way and process things differently, right? But what I'm saying is that we're literally, this is like a cliche line, but it's true, like, we're all human, so there's not an emotion that you felt in your life that a human being hasn't felt at some point in their life.
That would be mental, but
Aye.
if you had felt a new emotion
Yeah,
for
I've
the
got a
first
new
time,
emotion, man.
Like a total new thing. Like, you know,
like,
I just can't explain it.
I'm
and
shoveling
you're
and I'm freezing.
5 edibles. Of course, you don't feel the same. Like,
That will do it.
you've taken too much acid tonight. That's fine. so that's the, so for me, it was kind of a thing where I was like looking at it and going, right, I want to be able to, because so when I'm saying we all feel the same emotions, we all, like I said, we all process things differently, and like actually being able to talk about that and when you go through certain times in your life and you feel pure alone, and my thing was I just don't want people to feel like that. Like it's a horrible feeling, and not every day, even when you get past that and you get your routine sorted out, you're doing good things. Not every day is going to be a good day. You're not going to wake up every day and feel happy all the time. But like being aware that that's all right, and it's all right to have bad days, and you can get through it. You know, that for me was a point of all ability, and I've had my ups and downs in that, but I just want to make sure that, you know, people that listen to it can feel they're not alone in something.
So is that why, do you think you focus on sort of like most of the episodes are, obviously you'll talk about, maybe you'll have a big guest on, you'll talk about their football or whatever, you'll talk about this, but you always try and get into that side of things where you're like, how is your life, what are you feeling, and is that sort of this kind of ongoing thing you want to keep in it, that like it almost, you know, you've had some big guests on, man. You've had like Cy Ferry, John Hartson on as well, didn't you?
John Hartson.
You've had like
the boys for Reilly's Gaff.
Oh, aye, well, I wanted to keep that. No,
Sorry.
so you've had big guests on that almost, I think, the approach you take almost humanises them. Do you know what I mean? And that's maybe what you're trying to do with your guests. You're trying to maybe say, look, this guy might have played for Celtic and he's done this and he's done that, but he still feels shite as well.
Exactly, like there's a connection there, and if you can find a connection between, you know, if somebody will see me talking to John Hartson or Cy Ferry or something and think, you know, that's so nice of them to be talking to them, you know, but it's like when you start getting inside talking about things like he's been through in his life and how he's felt and that, and it's funny watching people, like, you know, names that you're nervous about talking, and you start talking to them and you realise, like, you can sort of see layers come off them because they're starting to get relaxed and you're starting to talk, you know, and it's just showing that, like, regardless of whatever you think somebody else is, that you're not there yet, they're still going through these things that you've going through it, and you can still relate to them. And it's like nothing that everybody always wants to desire certain things, and it's like, I want this and why don't I have this and why don't I have that, but, like, you know, if you can actually realise that everybody's dealing with something, and that, because I think the most dangerous thing you can say to yourself is no one understands me.
Because then that totally alienates you.
Mate, for years I did that. I was like, fucking nobody gets how hard
There's
this is.
a big talk, right? I had to do like, a bunch of stuff on alienation and communities and stuff, because my degree was community development, and there's a talk by a guy called, is it Jimmy Reid? I think it's Jimmy Reid, 1972. It's like an alienation talk about how we need to keep people from being alienated, and like the New York Times called it like the most important speech a human being's given since, I think it was like a Martin Luther King speech before that or something. And it does just show you like how important it is to feel that connection as human beings, is to feel like we're all feeling similar things, we're all having the same worries, we're all having the same sort of stuff. But it is really important. And see, just as well, you're saying about, you know, you get a guest and you might be a bit nervous, and then you see the layers coming off them. Can you remember being like particularly nervous for a guest coming in, or like being like, oh fuck, or like, can you remember?
Mate, I was shaking for John Hartson, man. To me, that was like a big deal, because
he heeded you or something.
I'm just like, I can't believe he's coming to talk to me, but, you know, and you just and you're asking you things like, was that alright and that, and you're like, I
don't know, was it? You know what annoys me? See what you're saying, and I'm sorry, Reese Haggerty, right? I love you to bits, but see when a barber hodds a bit of your hair up and goes, is that alright? I'm like, I don't fucking know what this is going to look like, mate. That, like, every time,
especially because it's wet and that.
Every time, like, you don't get, like, you want to get that Tyler in your house and he puts one tile up, he's like that. What you think of that, Hank? You know what I mean? Like, I don't, you're the fucking Tyler.
It is kind of like now when you do paint and you do like one wee bit of green, one wee bit of red, one wee bit of yellow, and you're like, oh, one of them. Fuck knows, mate. Do the full wall.
And then I can see, so sorry, Reese, but that really just fucks me up. Mate, somebody you had in your podcast who, you know, this is mental to me, right? Tolando.
Oh, aye, to Orlando, aye.
Right? Do you know about this guy?
No.
He plays FIFA with his feet.
Mate, I'm going to watch it.
Because somebody ages ago mailed me about him, right? And it was at like 2 a.m, and I woke up and seen it. And see the way the mail had been wrote, it was like that. I got a good podcast guest, he plays FIFA with his feet and all that, and I was like, somebody's fucking trying to bam me up here, know what I mean? And then I seen him on yours and I was like, oh, it's a fucking actual real, I wasn't getting bammed up. Like, I couldn't, and know the amazing thing is with him, it's not like he just plays it and he's alright, mate, he wins like tourneys and that.
Mate,
like,
there was a boy, when I seen you posting about that, I was like, oh fuck, and I remembered there was a boy at my school, mate, and he had one of them, and he was the best keeper, the best at COD and the best at FIFA, just with one horn, mate.
yeah, adapt. I mean, what was that like talking to him even? Is that no, did he know, that don't blow your mind a bit?
Mate, I love it. Because it's like, I mean, if you put my arms with his legs, we could really get on to something.
Used to be
Superhuman.
We could create Superman, mate.
what I think about it, man.
It could be something special. I was telling him a good tag team, mate. It's like, what guys along your feet? I'm still trying to figure out if we one foot in front of the other, he can play fucking FIFA.
Mate, all the questions you were asking, I know, well, like that, I was like, does he get a special controller? And he was like,
aye.
And I just learned, and I'm like, fuck.
How is that even possible?
But that's
man?
what I mean by like when I say like, you might know it might be like the whole inspiration porn thing that you're saying, but like it's hard not to be inspired by that mindset of like, I'm not letting this hold me back. I will have a fulfilling, happy life.
It's
know
like
what I mean?
It's admirable as well.
It's admirable.
Like,
Exactly. And listen, being inspirational is a good thing. I'm not saying that like you can never call me inspirational or never call somebody with us inspirational. What I'm saying is, if they're doing something like that where they're going, I'm going to be one of the best FIFA players in the world with my feet, that is inspirational, not because he's, I know
I
I
just want to make this clear to people. It's not like he's in a league where everybody's playing with their feet. He's beating people that are playing it with their horns.
I mean, it's like it's incredible, and we all, everybody has different circumstances, and I recognise that there's financial and things are really tough in a lot of ways. But if you're listening to this and you're in a position where there's certain things in your life that are secure in terms of not having to worry about heating and where you're going to sleep at night and things like that, like we all have a choice. We all have a decision that we can make every day where we go, am I going to let this thing, drag me down and just not be, not allow me to not live my life?
Not letting you excel.
Exactly. Or am I going to, say, fuck that, man. Fuck all this. I'm going to do everything that everybody says I can't do and fuck them.
And
fuck
do better than them.
And talking to him, I was like, just talking, and like I was saying earlier, like as you're talking to these people, you start, like the last few weeks I've really gotten back to what I thought the purpose of the podcast was, which was finding that connection and that relatability. And he's saying a lot of things to me and I'm going, I felt that exact thing, like that exact emotion. And when you can kind of touch on that, you go, you come out of it kind of like, I feel like we've just done something in that conversation that's going to help somebody.
Aye, no, that's the best thing about your podcast. I mean, me and Jamie came out and were like, I feel like I was just at therapy or something, man.
I was actually buzzing off, and that's what I was saying when Evan was talking about it. He was like, no, I mean about him being pure some boy, and I was like, aye, but he's the heavy, most personable person in the world.
What Jamie said when Jamie came out the episode we done, which it'll be well out by now, troops. So if you want to go and see us on Orbit Ability, we'll even link it in the description. But if you can't find it, I mean, come on, I don't know how you're getting through.
If you're
life.
not just subscribed to Orbit Ability and Reilly's Gaff, don't know what to do, man.
But Jamie came out and he's like, I said that was good, wasn't it? Aye, and he was like, I've never spoke about myself seriously. Ever.
Like,
so you dragged it out, but I think you're really, really good. Like, see when I go on podcasts, because I do a podcast, I'm always like, you're always sort of no judging the person that's doing it, but you're like, I know what we do and I know how hard this is and I know how hard it is to make it look natural. Like just, so you said that, then that, then that. And I think you're brilliant at that, and you're really good at, like, a guest comes in, and as you said, you've had Talando, you've had Cypheria, but a bunch of whole different people, but you are really good at just getting the layers off, baby. So
I was judging you. You were under intense scrutiny for me, and you done brilliant, mate. Something like that. I've been watching every move.
Well, I'm glad I passed the test. I mean, to me, it's like, like when you're, I just base it off of how I've felt and try to, because a lot of people feel different things but aren't able to communicate how emotions, and I've just always, for some reason, like when you're going through things, you're like that. What's the best way for me to communicate this in order to help somebody? You know what I mean? And not, you know, don't just say it in a way. There's no point of like, there's that quote is like, knowledge and how you know, being self-aware doesn't mean anything if you can't actually apply it to somebody else. It's not about me saying it in a way that it's not about me saying it in a way that I understand. It's about me saying it in a way that you understand.
Because and you do, and this is especially what I meant when I said you're like inspirational for even me watching you. Like, see if I'm having a shit day and then I see you on Twitter and you're fucking what's this thing, the fuck
is that like an air bike? Is that like an air bike?
If you can't see what we're doing, we're like, it's like cycling with your hands basically, isn't it?
It looks fucking solid.
I did that challenge actually, like a 1,000k challenge in 2021. I did it. It was like 1,000k, mate. So it was 40k on a ski every day, and to get 1,000k by the end of the month, and I raised over $2,000 for charity.
That's class, mate.
And it was actual. Do you know, it was the funniest thing, man. We were sitting there, me and Paul were sitting after that podcast, and we're smoking a joint, and like was just he just gets pure stoned, and he's like, because I've been doing the handbike, I've been doing a lot on it, and he was like, well, why don't you just, because it was like 20k everything a day, and he was like, why don't you just do 1,000? Just do 1,000k. And I was purely like,
up here. Just do 1,000.
And I signed up for it. I posted about it and did it. And then the first day I was in there for like 8 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night trying to do 40k on this ski. And I was like, talking to him, and I was like, what have I done here, man? This is
I've got all these people here roped in.
But I think that's really good. Like, obviously at the time you're like, fuck, but see, especially with things like that, see when you've got like a bunch of people like sponsoring you and all that shit, you're like, I fucking need it. But no, what interests me about you, mate, it's like, as you say, you've been through a lot, and you could very easily, if anybody's in a position to be like, I fucking hate life and it's fucking shite, you got a free pass. Nobody would even think twice about anything if you were like that, but you only. But then on top of that, you're positive about your life, but even to go a bit further, you have this desire to help everybody else, even people that aren't in your predicament. It's not like that, all you fucking people that aren't in the chair, turn off. But here's my message for the people in the chairs. Now it's like, you're like,
no, all these fuckers are away.
And it's like, you talk in a way that's like, isn't it about, if you're disabled and this, you're like, if you're going through shit, just get up and go. Like, just go, even if you don't feel like it. I remember when you said it, pure stuck with me. It's like, you said something about every day you don't feel like doing it, and you do it, you're one step closer to like progress.
I don't take steps right enough, but
metaphoric steps. So where do you think this comes from in you?
Like your drive.
Not even the drive. The side that wants you to like help everybody else as well. Like is like something in your family really like this? That.
Well, there's a couple of things to this. One is that I think the one big realisation for me was that I realised that if I wasn't in a wheelchair, if I could, if I was like you two gentlemen here, a fully able, human according to our society, which I don't agree with those words, but
I was about to go like that. Can't say that, mate.
Have you heard my Elf comparison yet?
No,
because it's like that scene at Elf where he's like, Will Ferrell's in the North Pole and nothing works for him, mate. He kind of sit down. He's trying to find a place in the North Pole that they'll have him in it. And he can't find anywhere because nothing's accessible for him. But by our definition of a fully able human being, Will Ferrell is perfectly capable. But not at the North Pole, mate, because nothing's designed for him.
Are you trying to create your own North Pole that nothing works for, like me and Jamie?
George Pole in the middle of the town.
The point of that is it's not the disability that's the problem, it's our surroundings. We create disability by the way that we create our society.
Aye, that's so true. I know what you mean.
But no, mate, it's like I realised that if I could walk, and I mean, if I could walk, I would just run a bit, man. See what it's like.
That'd be the first thing, and then
I would just run for like an hour, and then be like, "That was class, man." But I realised that I would still feel this way that I feel, I wouldn't just be happy all the time because I can walk.
Because like humans are mad. Like it's not even. It's like you always have something that's like you can't be content as a human. I don't think.
No, I think
in 2022,
I think the only way you can be content is accepting that you'll never be content.
Aye,
Exactly, mate. And that
the old Buddhist way, innit?
well, that was the thing. As you go, well, that's not, you know, a lot of the things I would say to myself for years. I would say to myself, oh, if I could just walk. But then I'm like, if I could walk though, you realise that, well, I would still be feeling straight with myself about something else.
Aye, it just it's no the thing that you're desiring that's going to fix it. And it's like when people think, as soon as I get hundreds of money, I'll be sound, and then they get there and they're no happy. There's a different thing in your brain that's going to make you feel alright, and it's accepting your problems. It's no fighting them and battling them and trying to I mean, you can do that to an extent, but I know you're right on there, as they say. But I mean,
otherwise you'll just be in a constant fight with yourself. And you're talking about, where does this want to help people? Like, where does that come from? It's like, see, when you feel a certain level of pain in your life, you go, that was pretty rough, you know what I mean? And you just think to yourself, like, and then you get through it somehow, and you realize, you look back at it and you go, the fact I felt like that and I'm still here. And there's people that probably feel like that and they need something to just not feel like that, or some idea of just
something to just bring them back.
Aye, so it's like, I just was like, this was a horrible feeling of pain that I felt. How can I make sure that people don't have to feel that way, or at least for that period of time they do, know there's going to be a way out of that. There's a way out of that. Like, it's all about it's all about ability, but
it's all about ability to get it in there.
It's all about what's in your head, you know what I mean? What are you saying to yourself, how you doing it? And you asked about, like, if there was people in my family that had a impact on that, and I would need to, I mean, my mum and all that have been great, but I would need to mention particularly my gran, who I called my nana, right? So I'm going to call her my nana because that's what I called her, right? So fuck off, everybody.
I get like that. See, when I mention my papa, I always go, I call him Pap. Like, I feel self-conscious about doing that.
No, that's what I called her, and that's what her name is now, right?
So Nana, sorry.
Nana, and this is a, I don't know if, I haven't told this story in a while, so hopefully it resonates, but she always had this thing with me where she always used to say to me, "You're Superman," right? And I used to be like, oh, that's still cheesy. I'm
I know, but
right? But she would just be like that. She would just always be like that. You can do it, and you are Superman, right? And there was times in my life, like one particular scenario where I can get on and off my chair, no bother now, you know what I mean? But there was a time in my life where I was too small and too weak to do that, and I would get lifted. But in more ways than one. But in my house, nobody was there one day. And she came, you know, like, my pops came at the door, like, "Are you coming out?" And I'm like crying to my nana saying, I can't get in the chair, like, I can't go out. And she just looked at me right in the face and was like, "How come you can't do it though? Like, what is it that's, you know, stopping you from doing it?" And I tried for like hours and hours to get on this chair. My arms were pure jelly, man. And she just looked at me and was like, "You're Superman, you can do this." And she wouldn't let me stop do it until I got on the chair. And I got on the chair eventually that day. And then ever since then, I've done it myself.
Was that a pure breakthrough then?
It was a pure breakthrough because, and she was one of the biggest reasons why I got into the gym and that. Like, for me, like, I was in a situation where I was chasing, like I said, I was the class clown. I was chasing social acceptance for years. Every day, that was the only thing on my mind. And then eventually you're looking at your pals and you're on a beach and you're hanging out your ass and you're going, I'm all over the shot, and they've talking about going to uni and college and that, and I've got nothing going on. I've got nothing going on here. What's happening? Right? So I left that day and I was like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to sort this out. And one of the biggest reasons for that was thinking hard and thinking, like, I kind of like the person that thought I was Superman just see me fall apart, you know what I mean? So I started going to the gym and it was kind of in the gym and working out and gaining that independence, but I started to realise, like, being in a wheelchair or any sort of problem I had, it wasn't about that, it was about how I was feeling in my head. Do you know what I mean? And listen, boys, the gym is not therapy. Go get real therapy. It's not therapy. Like,
don't just jump in a cold bath and then
like, talk to somebody. Like, it's important to talk to people about things. And
that's amazing.
So she had a big impact on me, man. And
no, that's amazing, Kieran. Look, we need to wrap this up, troops. We're a bit late with time here. We need to get producer Jamie back up to the homeland of Ayrshire.
The Holy Land.
Kieran, we'll do a part 2, definitely. I mean, we've been on all about ability. We could all of us could talk for days. So we'll do another one soon where we're no time restraint. But where can people find the podcast and anything about you?
Well, All About Billy has Instagram, Twitter, all the social medias, mate. You just type in All About Billy, all separate words, you'll find it everywhere. The podcast is on YouTube, Spotify, same platforms as yourself. And we have podcasts coming out every Tuesday at 5 o'clock. So
It's a great podcast. Go and subscribe.
It is a very good one, Trips. If you're feeling down, get Kieran Burns around. That's what they say, baby.
Kieran Burns in your ears.
That's
so
it.
you need.
See you later, Trips. Cheers.